Yeah, so it started about 11 years ago when I got burnt out. And following that burnout, some chronic conditions were discovered and are still like being diagnosed. So there was a big shift for me in my body. And about 10 years ago, I started using self-portraiture as um, like a part of my body acceptance work, I suppose. And a few years ago, I started incorporating that into my art as well. Before, it was just self-portraiture for body acceptance, and then it became an actual artistic expression. Um, yeah, so when I started Body History Museum, um, I wanted to examine how my body came to be and my body image. Um, Mostly like from the perspective of a chronically ill and fat body. So like the medical body and how I had been treated by healthcare. Um, so that was the first iteration of the museum. But I quickly discovered that it's not that simple to like capture the idea of body history or understand my body or how it came to be. Um, so the whole idea of it broadened, and so did the modes of expression, um, from photography to um, first and foremost making it an installation, the whole thing, the museum being an immersive sort of experience. And within that, creating works in different media depending on what has to be said um, regarding all these different things. So now it's not only the medical body. I work with um, a lot of ideas on the ancestral body and like generational things and the body that I inherited from my mother. Um, Also, the trauma body, trauma responses, a lot of mm, ideas surrounding memory and how memory is created, how false it can be, how we can recreate um, the idea of our body or the image of our bodies. Um, yeah, so it's a big, big umbrella thing. Uh, and I'm just never satisfied with just using one media. Um, I think art resembles the body in that sense that it can take on many forms. And that's also how I choose to use art very broadly. It feels like a no. I always feel so incompetent or like not ready, but I'm just doing it. But I've been writing and making art my whole life. And then 15 years ago, I got a bachelor's degree in media in film and TV production. So that's my background. And that's where um, I developed my photography more than anything else. I focused on directing and script writing. Um, And after that, I also studied music production. So after that, I worked in music for a couple of years um, and focused a lot on just my art. But then when I got sick, everything sort of slowed down, or I had to stop. basically everything, and just regain my balance, which I have not yet, but trying to. So I did a lot of art, mostly painting and photography. And then I decided I wanted to also study fine art to get, well, I guess get the degree, but just some more, just flesh out my like concept of visual art. So I took a bachelor's degree in fine arts um, for 2 years and got it last year. So I have tried a lot of different mediums, but I'm also just um, going after whatever feels right in the moment, no matter how incompetent I am at it, I suppose. Oh, I wish I had a better concept myself of how my process works. Um, right now, within the Body History Museum, uh, it feels really good to be within this container because I have like this aesthetic container and a thematic one, which is broad. Uh, but I think a container of sorts is good for my atypical brain. And yeah, I easily get lost in the sauce, so to speak, just um, being interested in so many things and getting really passionate about one thing, giving it my all, and then like starting to focus on something else. And yeah, so within this container, I have a goal and I have like something to um, limit me in a sense, but it's a really freeing experience for me. Like within this, I know I'm very goal oriented. So I know I'm making it for something. It's going to be something. It's going to be shown somewhere. Um, but I have all these different mediums that I can use. So usually it is like, um, usually it actually is like a visual idea um, that resonate to a theme or something I want to express. Um, More rarely, I have the theme or the idea and I'm trying to come up with a visual expression. They like exist in a parallel, but it's usually the visual trigger that will make me fetch the emotion or the research or whatever I've also been like working on. Um, yeah, and then I just go for it, I suppose. I have a hard time maybe, yeah, conceptualizing the process because it feels like I'm always working. Like it's not, I can't really divide it into pieces and um, explain how it goes. It's so much um, like depending on my schedule in general with everything I have going on. So it's, um, I'm always working, and the artistic expression or the actual works that need to get made are basically just crammed in there in the schedule. And then I effing do it. I don't want it to be like that. I wish I had longer periods of um, no stress, no money anxiety, no health scares or whatever, so I could um, have more time to just form things and form a process that is healthy. But for the time being, it's just crammed in there. It's very not poetic. Yeah, well, I guess it sounds better than it feels because it's not a great feeling because I don't know if it is my best work even working like that, but it has been the only mode I can like accomplish right now. And I am not very good at switching between modes. It's one of the things I struggle with. I'm just forced to do it. And that's maybe why I feel insecure if it is this like the best mode of working for me, and it probably isn't. But I have a very high like ambition and what do you call that? In Swedish, I would just call it syndrome. So syndrome for being a good girl,
Yeah.
basically. Um, yeah. Anyway, so I can't really live with myself not getting the things done, and it does cost me my health, or it did 10 years ago, and it still does to some extent. But a lot of that is not within my power. Uh, I will not go into a rant about Kela and money and the reality for artists going after grants, but um, it is really tough out here, and I don't have agency to create like a work-life balance that I want. Um, yeah, so yeah, it it does cost me my health, cramming everything in there, but I don't see any other choice. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
I suppose so. I live very much for the expression of the life I'm living, if it makes sense. Uh, like it feels like everything I'm experiencing, I also want to express artistically. It's like, yeah, they feed each other, and I don't know. I don't know what I would do if I didn't always express myself. I find inspiration almost everywhere, I suppose, especially with this project because it so much revolves around my experience in my body. So being in the world is the material and the inspiration that I need, so to speak. Uh, this won't end until I die, so to speak. Um, so just experiencing life and how my body moves in the world and how it is with other people, close to other people, how it's seen by other people, that feeds the work. Um, but of course, I'm also right now very inspired by the research I'm doing regarding uh, phenomenology and just the philosophy around the body in the world, and body image, things like that. So there's a lot of reading going on as well. In this project, this is the most uh, like research I'm continually doing for a project. So the percentage of what is reading, writing, thinking, and how much is physical work. So the percentage of the physical work is very little. although that is also more than I've done before because some of the works are intricate and demand some engineering skills that I don't really have. But still, just the amount of research and thinking and like tuning into the body is like immense compared to what I've done before. Portraiture, I suppose. I don't really see myself as a photographer, although I often like use that label after artist to sort of explain what I'm mostly doing right now. But I feel, well, I lack the actual degree. I lack a good camera. I lack the technical knowledge. But I am, I think, good at seeing people. And yeah, so working with portraiture, I think is, yeah, it's one of my favorite things. And it has been really important for me personally to do self-portraiture. I always recommend people doing that, or like using me or another photographer to just capture them to work on their body image and self-acceptance.
Yes, and quite a few photographers aren't that used to being in front of the lens, so it could be very very good professionally as well.
Yes.
To see how what it's like.
Yeah.
About your self-portraiture, I think it's not fair to say that the word that is very often heard in similar type of projects is brave, because I think that bravery is sort of like forcing yourself against the bigger will, or so to say. But I think they're honest and bold in a sense.
I want to answer money again, Esa. No. Just beside the point I already made about not really having full agency on how I make my artistic life work, I think, well, I think my well, my insecurities are a big hindrance sometimes. The feeling that I'm just not able to do something or lack something needed to create something. But it being sort of a hindrance hasn't really hindered me yet. I try to push through. But I think, I mean, are there artists who are not ever insecure? I mean, it feels like it comes with the territory if you do art that is challenging or like super personal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's where I suppose that's where the honesty comes from in challenging yourself.
Yeah, and I I like what you said about the word brave not being great, because it's something that is often discussed in the like the body positivity movement, or whatever you want to call it, that you would never tell like a thin person that they're brave if they're showing their body. But being bold and honest within the art can be brave no matter what you show, but bold is a better word. It's way easier not to. But I see no point in making art that is not challenging me or the world, I suppose. I don't want to be meek or something like that. It feels like I'm really going for like facing myself, and in that facing the world, and nothing less than that would be worth all of this. I mean, yeah. I should point out that I still call my work like autofictional, and I am not promising that everything is true because it's very subjective. So I still use narratives to expand on experiences, and that really started in writing when I published my first book in 2014, which is short prose. And that's like, I would say mostly true, most of it. But that's when I really discovered the beauty in putting poetry and narratives like around some truth to carry it, and also maybe give, I wouldn't say like distancing it from myself, but maybe making a bridge for others as well to connect to the work. So it's not always so much about me, or I don't know, something like that, making a bridge.
Yes.
And that's something I've taken now into this work. I would say most of this work is also just very honest and very intimate and very much me. But I do create some narratives and some like poetry around it to yeah, build bridges, I suppose. And I guess that's the point of this museum, to shine a light on the myths that we create about our bodies. I don't know, even if it might be one of the objectives of this work is to like find my body or the true me. I don't think that's gonna happen, but it's a nice objective to have. But I think, yeah, we just create these stories and myths, and others create them for us as well. So yeah, so a lot of the things I'm telling through my work is it can't be like an objective truth, because what is that? We're constantly creating content on top of our bodies and ourselves. A future iteration of the museum will feature other artists and humans and their body histories and narratives, and then other layers will come up, and maybe also layers that I have but have not gotten into. But I think the way I started with the medical body and the fat body is just, it's very on the surface. It was very very much just part of my reality at that point, and still is. But in a way, it was easy to approach because it's so hands-on. I have 38 years of documentation of this layer. Well, I guess they are multiple layers, but still, it's very hands-on, it's very physical, it's documented. It's harder, for example, to go after the layer that I have created or has been created for me regarding my mother and how it changed after her passing, like how whether I look like her, how much of the same issues with our bodies did we have, and so forth. It's very elusive because I can't ask her, I can't look at her, I can't like feel her in that sense. So the way I work with these layers, it's very different. Like going after the ancestral body and my mother's body is very emotional and heartbreaking work, while layers of fat phobia or the medical body is way more just out there for me to try to like research and examine in a way. Can also be heartbreaking. But yeah, so it's just very different work. I don't know if that's what you're asking. I'm just, yeah, trying to explain how I try to get close to these versions of myself. Like one more visual part that I'm using is the memory of her dead body and trying to reconcile that memory with what she was when she was alive. So it's a very visual search for something. And then the more ancestral part is, yeah, trying to, I guess, find a reason or find roots for some of the things that are obviously inherited and what it means that it is inherited. It's not like a choice. Yeah, and I think, well, everyone has ancestry, so everyone has this or these layers to examine if they want to. But I think for me, it just became very evident that I wanted to just after her passing and not before, when I could ask or get more answers. So yeah, so this is definitely research into a myth. It's a myth that I create, but also just what has been created around my family or the women in my family or whatever. So, yeah. So I'm making video works with dance and movement, and I will show those next year. And then going on from that, I will curate a sort of group exhibition with my works and other artists and researchers and performers, and try to create like a body history museum with several narratives and also like research, and writings, and trying to bring some of these ideas on body and body image to museum goers. And I want to bring in also performance artists and dancers and things like that. So you get an IRL version of a body experiencing itself here in this world. I call it usually like documented performances or dances or documented rituals. So repetitive movements documented. And I probably will never be a live performer. Well, who knows? But that's not what I'm doing here. Like these dances or rituals or movements are, they're very intimate, and it's something that happens in the moment when I'm by myself, and that's when I create this whatever expression it is I want to do, or like a ritual I want to perform, and I document it for the museum, but it wouldn't be what it is if it was a live performance in front of somebody. So that's why I call them sort of documentations of performances or rituals. I think I've gotten really beautiful feedback. This is probably like the body of work that demands the most from the audience of what I've ever done. Because it's not just pretty pictures. Well, you can just look at the pretty pictures, I guess, but um, it has a lot of layers. It has a lot of text and details. And I realized that that is a threshold for some people, or a too high of a threshold. But I've had some really beautiful discussions with people regarding this work and in all the iterations so far, because it opens up sometimes maybe more than I want people's, yeah, like their walls come down regarding their own bodies, and yeah, the way their experiences, a lot of it has been regarding the medical things, because I think in healthcare and when facing some health issues, we are so helpless and without agency, and yeah, that leaves room for a lot of hurt and mistakes made, and yeah, all kinds of things. So I've heard quite a lot of those stories, and just in general, people seem to feel that it is, like you said, very honest and like very naked, which scares some people, but for the rest, I think it really hits home. Like I am just an example of a body. It's I like that I like that this idea works, that it's not just about me, that just because I'm using myself doesn't mean it's only about me. It opens something for people so they can also be vulnerable. Yeah, so I'm very happy about that. Maybe I'll just give that same advice to try self-portraiture. No matter if you'll ever use it, but you as a body in this world, that's the artist. I mean, you should know thyself, and using self-portraiture is it's very tough. It's not easy. And yeah, I will never say that it's easy and you'll love the pictures that you take. That's not the point. And yeah, but I think it will teach you something about you in the world and how you look at yourself. For the exhibition in Lapua, I I hope that they sit down in my temple and just give it a moment. Even if you don't even look at the art, just sit down and rest your body for a while.